If you're not aware, the anniversary is going to be bringing a ton of very powerful buffs to a lot of characters, both gold and low star legends alike, and one of those characters that is finally getting their kit fixed is going to be Jaguar Man, the freelancer that everybody gets for finishing Peak Babylonia. Now you may be asking, ZTL, why are you doing this a couple of days before the anniversary? And I'll tell you, once the anniversary starts, we're not going to be able to stop. There's going to be no in-between time to cover all these little low-star Legends characters. There's going to be Ace videos. There's summer videos. Japan is moving in to their big event as well. We're going to have no time to cover these guys, but I think they're good enough that they deserve to be covered. So I wanted to do some low-star Legends videos in preparation for the anniversary coming out. Especially because these low rarity characters are ones that you can get legitimately hyped about. You know, Karna's gonna get a really strong buff, but maybe you don't have Karna. Bradamante's gonna be insane. But again, maybe you don't have Bradamante. Salter is definitely the winner of anniversary buffs, but maybe you don't have that story-locked 4-star Saber. Well, at the very least, you're guaranteed at least one copy of Jaguar Man, and we're going to talk about how good she's going to be post-buff in this video with some background gameplay going alongside it. So with all that being said, as per usual, make sure you drop a like on the video, maybe even subscribe to the channel if you like these daily FGO videos. But enough shilling for my own channel, let's start diving into her kit, starting off with her hits. And they're not exactly the prettiest here because she is a really old, low rarity character. She's got hits that will get the job done. 1.05% NP gain is really high, but with only 2 hits on the singular art card and the double quick cards, you might not be refunding as much NP as you would assume you're going to be getting, but it'll be enough to get the job done. Now, one thing we do love to see over here at ZTL Industries is not just the 5-hit extra attack, which is the gold standard, and if you're not on game, let me put you on. The extra attack is a composite card that gen stars NP and does big boy damage. The more hits on it, the better, and she's breaking the mold. Where she is lacking in hits on her art and quick cards, she's making up for on her extra attack. Now, normally, this is where I would tell you that you could invest servant coins and, you know, make her extra attack the omnipotent extra attack, but unfortunately, you're probably going to be strapped for coins with this one. Because she is story locked, you're only going to have the 1 copy unless you catch her on raid up, or just a big dumb idiot and are rolling on the story gacha and getting really lucky. So outside of maybe bonding her up, you're not really going to have a whole ton of different servant coins to spend on this character, which does mean you'll have to make a little bit of a decision. Now, her third append skill is anti-rider damage, which, again, the meme is not lost on me. Jaguar Man gets beat up by Quetzalcoatl, but then, you know, is now just having anti-rider damage. I think that's absolutely hilarious. But you also need to choose between this if you want bonus damage on your riders, or if you want that starting NP gauge with mono-loading on her append too, or you could even save your coins for the 4th and 5th append skill. Personally, I think the 4th append skill is pretty good on her because she's a very crit-oriented character, so giving her an additional 30% can make up for the lack of damage you're getting on her NP. If you're stuck at, say, NP 1 or 2, you can at least make up for that with crits. So a couple of decisions you gotta make there on your append skills, especially because some people are gonna be more limited on what servant coins they have available for Jaguar Man. Now, before we move into her actual proper skills, let's talk about her passive skills. She's rocking a 20% debuff resistance thanks to magic resistance. She gets a passive whopping 2% buster damage because of Madness Enhancement E, and she gets some extra 200 bonus damage because of Divinity A. So just a little bit more damage, and she can essentially whiff any debuff coming her way with like a 1 in 5 shot. As passive skills, they're not bad for a character you're primarily going to be using as a DPS. But now, let's start moving into those good old skills and talk about what this character actually does properly. And we'll be starting off with Jaguar Punch A, now going to be upgraded to A+. This is going to be giving her a plethora of abilities. 30% buster for 3 turns, a 40% mental debuff resistance, which is not for every debuff resist, but it's for some of the ones that are the most annoying. Charm, sleep, stun, terror, all these things that would essentially make you lose a turn when going into battle. She has 40% on that in addition to her debuff resistance on her passive, which is really strong. She also gives herself 2 hits of evasion that, similarly to Ku, do not actually wear off based on turns. They wear off whenever you use them, so technically If your Jaguar Man never gets hit, they could still have these 2 hits of evasion before this skill even comes back. But then newly added to this skill is the ability to grant herself Forest Battlefield for 3 turns and to drop 30 stars. These are both phenomenal things to go ahead and give her. Now, the Forest Battlefield won't make a whole lot of sense until we get to the 3rd skill, but if you already know, keep it in your pants, don't spoil it for the other people that are new. As I mentioned earlier, she is primarily, I would say, a crit servant. So the fact that she's able to provide 30 crit stars is very, very powerful. If you don't know, the maximum amount of crit stars you really want to gen in a turn is 50. Anything more than that is kind of just a flex, but 50 crit stars pretty much guarantees that every single character in that turn is going to be able to crit, since 1 crit star gives you 10% to your crit chance. You have 5 cards, each one can hold 10, so 50 is going to be the maximum you want to hold. This gets you over half of that threshold, and then when you start taking into account that some of your supports can give you stars, or even low rarity supports can gen stars every single turn, this is a really nice thing for her to just get in the fight immediately with some big meaty crits. But 1 skill is not enough to make a character broken, so let's start looking at some of her other skills. Moving over to her 2nd skill, Jaguar Kick B. I can't wait for this one to be buffed, because again, it already has a pretty decent skill on it. It's giving her 30% attack for 2 turns on a low 5-turn cooldown. Now, this doesn't seem like much, but because Jaguar Punch was buffed, can't Jaguar Kick be buffed to give her something that she might be lacking? And I'll spoil it for you right here. It's going to sound really boring, but if you just slap on even a 20 to 30% battery on this character, she could become a really strong low rarity option if you need just somebody to chunk some large enemies, especially if more so you are able to bag her at NP5. You know, if you are able to get those extra copies because you snag her on a banner where she's on rate up, and you were also going for like maybe the 4 or 5-star character that was on rate up with her. Realistically, it's just providing free damage. You see this button, you click it, you get the free damage, bada boom, bada bing, you move on. But at the very least, it's more useful than, say, someone like Karna's first skill, which doesn't really do anything until it eventually will get buffed. This at least already has a really strong effect on it, and is more than likely going to get buffed in the future. But alright, pull that memory back from the back of your subconscious when I mentioned she gives herself the Forest Battlefield buff, because you're going to need it for her 3rd skill, Jaguar Eye A+. This gives her 50% crit damage for 3 turns, and gives her 50% star gen and 600% star weight if she is on Forest Battlefield for 3 turns apiece on a 6-turn cooldown. Now, the star gen isn't actually the biggest deal. I mean, you can get some nice star gen off that extra attack in a Brave Chain. It's got 6 hits on it. It's aight. But the main cards you're using to gen stars are predominantly going to be quick cards. She doesn't have very high hits on those. But the star absorption, now that is a little sexy, because it means that she does not have to fight for any stars. If you're in a position after the first skill has worn off and you don't have that massive influx of stars, and maybe you're just relying on, say, Merlin's NP plus a 20, 30, and the odd stars you genned here and there off the last Brave Chain to get some crits, the last thing you want to do is have them be wasted on Merlin, or Oberon, or Koyanskaya. You want Jaguar Man to be doing crits. You want her to be getting in there and smacking people with a good old Jaguar Punch, a kick, and maybe a little pokey with that stick she's got. So it may not sound like a lot, the fact that it's only guaranteeing that she's getting the Forest Star Gen and the Star Absorption, but the extra little bit of generation can be nice, as I said, in Brave Chains, but the star weight is very strong in ensuring that your Jaguar Man is able to do her job. Her job being, if the NP fails, crit the enemy even harder. And right now, I mean, I'm not going to say she's the greatest low rarity character in the game, but she does have what I would say is a respectable kit. It is a fairly fine, okay kit that is waiting for a buff on that second skill, whether it be a power mod, a battery, more crit damage, ramping damage maybe, who knows? But she's already primed to get a very strong buff, although it might be 2 years away even if the JP got it tomorrow, but it will be something that will take a servant that is already in a pretty good position and put them in an even better one. Another thing they could do is go ahead and buff her NP, because right now, it's okay. And that is built-in Pierce Evasion, which if you don't know what that does, it lets you get around enemy dodge buffs. So anytime you fire her NP, your Jaguar Man for the entire turn, including the NP because it procs first, is going to be getting around any and all dodge buffs. That's just a nice convenient thing to have. But reducing the enemy's debuff resistance by 10 to 50% for 3 turns on overcharge, I'm not really sure what you're supposed to do with that because she has not a single, not a one debuff anywhere on her kit. Maybe they want to give her a Buster Down on her second skill, or maybe there's a Buster Down that procs first on her NP, and you can maybe more guarantee land that every time you fire the NP if they want to buff that. But right now, I think they kind of just checked some BS on her NP and called it a day. Hopefully in the future, if they buff her NP, they can at least give this some semblance of a usage. It's a nice NP, but it's not doing anything too crazy. But hey, if you need somebody to take down an archer or a berserker or maybe some weird extra class guy, or hey, maybe even a rider, she does have that bonus damage on a pen 3, getting around dodge buffs is going to be her specialty. Also, I know there are quite a few Taiga fans out there, so if you are a fan of Taiga, let me let you know that if you're going to grind up this Taiga, 1, you ain't got to worry about no servant coins because I know you were summoning hardcore in any banner she was a part of. But 2, her bond CE is actually pretty good. 15% buster for the entire party while she's on the field. Is it the craziest bond CE? Absolutely not. But is it better than some of those like random ones out there like Durian Donna giving you 30 stars one time and then just calling it a day? The bond CD doesn't do anything outside of that. Yeah, it's definitely better than those. You're at least getting some type of offensive buff that not only benefits her so she can hit a little bit harder, but also it means that in some multi-core setups where you gotta use your Grand Jaguar Man, as it were, you'll be able to eke more damage out of all of your other characters as well, which is pretty good. So all in all, is this a character you gotta level up immediately? Some kind of hidden gem 3-star character? Kind of. I mean, I'm not gonna say they're like Who or Arash or Uriel, these guys that are gonna be mainstays and you can use in all sorts of random minutia content, but are they bad? No, I can't say they're bad either. They're a pretty fine DPS character that you can use until you get somebody better, and what's better is they're free! You're at least guaranteed 1 copy for finishing Babylonia, which is peak already anyway, so you're guaranteed gonna finish that. But if you ever find a banner that has Taiga on right up with it, you know, it's just a nice little bonus incentive if you like yourself some Taiga. So hopefully some of you guys appreciated the Taiga posting over here. I myself am a bigger fan of Jaguar Man. I think they're a goofy little gumbus. I only wish we got to see more of the 3rd Ascension for obvious reasons. But I do also enjoy the humor of a god walking around in a tiger onesie. I mean, I think that's just kind of hilarious. I mean, who doesn't like seeing, you know, Quetzalcoatl throwing somebody around like a rag doll and they're in the goofiest outfit you've ever seen? I mean, FGO is a bit of a serious game at some times, but you gotta have some levity. You gotta have a little bit of humor in there every now and then, and Jaguar Man can help you out with that. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Also, let me know if you're a part of the Taiga tirade or if you're a part of the, I can't think of a T word for haters, but surely there are no Taiga haters out there. But with that being said, I should be back tomorrow to cover another low-star legend that is getting a buff during the anniversary. Maybe you can let me know which one you want to see. There's going to be a few of them. There's going to be Hans. There's going to be William Tell. You know, we got a couple of other little dudes getting their buffs. So if y'all have a preference, y'all can let me know in the comment section down below. Otherwise, I'll just kind of cover them at my leisure. But with that being said, I am done yapping. I'm getting out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day, and I'll catch y'all on the flippity floppity.